A wild Mustang, bearing deep scars from its past, knows only how to run. A boy who cannot speak, yet feels the pain that no one else can see. These two souls, seemingly unable to meet, can they change each other's fate? Can love and patience break the invisible barriers that both the horse and the boy have carried throughout their lives? This is not just the story of a boy and a horse. This is a tale of courage, love without words, and miracles beyond imagination. Are you ready to witness the power of love and patience? Join me as we uncover this heartwarming story. In the rugged hills of a distant mountain range, where nature still holds onto its wild and free essence, there lies a small, peaceful ranch where wild horses are rescued from lives of suffering and torment. This isn't just a regular ranch, it is a sanctuary where horses, marked by pain, find their salvation. These are not creatures easily tamed or conquered. They are symbols of freedom, wild strength, and resilience. This ranch serves not only to nurture and protect these wild horses, but also as a space that offers humans a chance to forge a deeper connection with these animals, often seen as savage and untamable. In a modern world filled with stress and haste, where people often lose their ability to connect with nature, this rescue ranch is a place to rediscover the primal values of life. The wild horses here are not just animals caught or abandoned, but free souls searching for healing and peace. And it is here, at this very place, that an extraordinary story is about to unfold, a story of a boy and a wild horse, two fates seemingly unable to cross paths, yet destined to create a miraculous bond that will not only change their lives, but also make anyone who witnesses it ponder the power of patience, love, and connection. Among the horses at the ranch, there is one named Blaze, a wild Mustang, one of the most iconic breeds of the American West. Blaze is unlike the other horses at the ranch, for it carries a past filled with agony and fear. Blaze doesn't easily trust anyone, even the caretakers at the ranch. Blaze always keeps a safe distance, as if to say, "I don't want to be tamed. I don't want to be controlled." Blaze is a wild horse, with sharp eyes that seem to pierce everyone it looks at, as if warning them never to come near. Its sleek black coat glistens with wild strength, and each step it takes radiates freedom that nothing can suppress. But this freedom also hides deep fears and wounds. Blaze comes from a herd of horses that were captured, enduring pain unimaginable to most. Wild horses like Blaze are symbols of strength, but also embodiments of the hurt inflicted by the human world. Since being brought to the rescue ranch, Blaze has become a challenge for the caretakers. They've tried to tame it, but all have failed. No one could approach Blaze without facing its violent reactions. No one could calm this horse down. Blaze is not just afraid of people, it is also afraid of itself. It feels like a creature with no place in this world. The scars of its past have left psychological wounds that are hard to heal. At this ranch, there is another being, a boy named Eliot. Eliot is not like other children. The boy has autism, a condition that makes it difficult for him to communicate and connect with the world around him. Yet, Eliot possesses a special ability. He can connect deeply with animals, especially horses. Everyone at the ranch knows that Eliot has a magical ability. He can sense emotions that others cannot see, and he can soothe the fears of wild horses. Eliot doesn't communicate with words, but his calmness and patience are exactly what Blaze needs. While other children talk and play, Eliot never forces Blaze to do anything. He simply sits quietly next to the horse, saying nothing, but allowing Blaze to sense his presence. He does not try to tame Blaze the way others do. Instead, he lets the horse approach him freely. Eliot's patience is something Blaze has never encountered before. Eliot doesn't rush, doesn't force. He simply lets Blaze get accustomed to the stillness and realizes that not everything in life is about control. It is in this silence that Blaze begins to sense something different, something it has never felt before: safety. The first day Eliot approaches Blaze, no one believes the boy will accomplish anything. Blaze stares into Eliot's eyes, and the boy doesn't shy away from its gaze. He doesn't see a wild horse filled with rage. He sees a creature desperately longing for connection but not knowing how to express it. The fears in Blaze's eyes are not hostility but the loneliness and pain it has endured all its life. Eliot says nothing, but he begins to hum a gentle melody that fills the quiet air of the ranch. The sound of that melody is like a soft breeze blowing through Blaze's soul, easing the worry and fear within the horse. Blaze doesn't run, doesn't fight back. It stands still, listening to the song. Blaze's breath begins to steady, and in that moment, the horse and the boy communicate in a special way that doesn't need words. In Eliot's world, there are no unnecessary words, only emotions and deep understanding. And in Blaze's world, no one but Eliot could make it feel safe. Their connection isn't about taming, it's about sharing pain and understanding, something only kindred spirits can truly find. The story of Eliot and Blaze is a magical journey, where love and patience overcome all trials, where an autistic boy and a wild horse find redemption in each other. This is not just a tale of taming a wild horse, but a journey of overcoming invisible barriers in the world to find the connection that sometimes can only be found through silence and feeling. Every step they take is a great victory, not only for themselves but for all those who believe that love and patience can change everything. Just as Blaze began to open up, a violent storm struck, tearing away the fragile peace and shattering the fears that both Blaze and Eliot had desperately tried to hide. Will the bond between them be strong enough to withstand this unpredictable fury, or will everything collapse under the storm's power? As the sun began to rise and the first rays of light bathed the farm, Eliot quietly walked toward the horse pen. He carried nothing but a belief in patience. He didn't bring a whip, reins, or any tools to tame Blaze. He only brought silence, a safe space that Blaze could feel. Every morning, the boy sat near the pen, never taking his eyes off Blaze, as soft melodies floated through the air like waves, sweeping away every worry and making the surroundings feel calmer than ever before. At first, Blaze stood far off, wary, its wild eyes still unable to trust the boy. But the sounds, gentle yet steady, began to seep into Blaze's mind, gradually soothing the turbulent waves within it. Each day, Blaze moved closer, not because it was forced, but because of something vague, something it had never felt before: safety. This safety did not come from words or strong gestures, but from the tranquility within Eliot's soul, where there was nothing but presence and love. Blaze was not a horse easily tamed. Every step it took was a resistance, a fear of a creature that had endured too much pain. However, Eliot's gentleness created no threat. Each time Blaze moved closer to Eliot, it wasn't out of desire, but curiosity about the boy and the feeling Blaze had never known: peace without control, patience without demand. It was only soft melodies, a humble presence, yet one with power that Blaze could not resist. Each time Blaze moved closer, Eliot did not rush, did not force. He simply sat still, quietly, allowing Blaze to feel that it could trust the silence, that not everything in life was about coercion. Blaze gradually began to understand that, instead of being tamed by power or traditional methods, it could change not through force, but through understanding. And Eliot, in turn, began to realize something. This understanding not only helped Blaze, but also helped himself overcome the fears that had tormented him for years. When Eliot first approached Blaze, he couldn't rely on conventional taming methods, where people often use coercion and control. Their relationship could not be built on imposition or power, but on acceptance and respect for freedom. Eliot, a 12-year-old boy with autism, could perceive things the world around him couldn't see. He didn't communicate through words, but through his presence and patience, two elements that Blaze, the wild horse, had never known. This is the key to their relationship. Eliot did not force Blaze to change, but allowed Blaze to freely explore safety. This is why their bond is not based on coercion or imposition, but on the harmony between two lonely souls, both seeking healing. Blaze, a creature once hunted and harmed, needed a safe place to learn to trust again, and Eliot was the one providing that space. The silence in their communication was the steady assurance. Eliot was not the one giving orders or demanding Blaze to change. He simply sat there, doing nothing but singing, a soft harmony with no pressure. Blaze, though always cautious and filled with anxiety, gradually realized that not everyone came to control it. Some people came to share the silence and safety. As Blaze began to approach Eliot, it was not a sudden change, but a gradual process over time. Blaze realized that each time it approached Eliot, it wasn't being controlled, nor forced to do anything. This feeling made Blaze begin to trust, something it had never experienced before. In the past, trust had been betrayed, but Eliot asked nothing from Blaze but to listen and feel the safety he brought. This was a pivotal moment in their relationship, when Blaze realized not all humans were hunters or controllers, and not everyone wanted to impose themselves on it. This shows that the connection between Eliot and Blaze is built not through words or strong actions, but through absolute patience, respect for space, and freedom. Throughout this journey, they not only help each other change but also learn how to trust and love through the smallest moments. Blaze is not a tamed horse. It is a free creature, and Eliot does not try to change that but creates a space where Blaze can freely feel safe, allowing the horse to change itself from within. As the bond between Eliot and Blaze began to deepen, the storm arrived, not just as a challenge from nature, but as a profound test of the trust, patience, and healing that their relationship had built. This storm was not only an external event but also a symbol of the internal struggles that both Blaze and Eliot would have to face throughout their journey. Blaze, a horse that had experienced a past full of wounds, was not just afraid of the storm's power but also of the instability within itself. It could not comprehend the safety within the chaos, because in its mind, the storm was not just an external force, it was a reflection of the inner turmoil, the panic, the loneliness, and the uncontrollable fear. The storm was a harsh test, not just of nature's strength but also of the psychological challenge Blaze had to face. In this moment, Eliot not only helped Blaze endure the external storm, but he also helped the horse confront the storm within. He did not use force or control, but relied on his presence and the gentle melodies Blaze had begun to recognize. This was the strength of love and patience, a companionship without force, only understanding and trust. But this challenge was not just a battle with the storm outside, but a confrontation with the deep-seated fears within each character. Eliot, despite having built a strong connection with Blaze, also had to face his own fears. Could he help Blaze overcome the greater challenges ahead? Could his love and patience be enough to protect Blaze when the trials exceeded their endurance? This storm symbolized instability, of the difficulties the two characters would face. Blaze might overcome this storm, but could it overcome the fears within its own mind? And would Eliot have the strength to help Blaze overcome not only the external struggles but also the emotional tempests within himself? This part not only showcases Eliot's patience but also highlights the self-discovery and limits they both face in this relationship. The moment Eliot sang in the storm was one of the most crucial points in the story. It was in the stillness of that song, in the peace within Eliot, that Blaze found safety. But this safety didn't come from a grand action, but from a small, yet meaningful act. Eliot did not give up, did not let go, but stayed there, companioning Blaze through the tempest. This is the absolute strength of love and patience. This first challenge was not only a confrontation with nature but also an internal storm for both Eliot and Blaze. Blaze learned that safety was not something it could find in control, but in understanding and love. Eliot, while the one helping Blaze heal, also had to face his own challenges. Could love be strong enough to overcome all barriers? Ultimately, this storm was not just a trial for Blaze and Eliot, but also a turning point in their relationship. This was the moment when true trust was built, when both realized that love and patience could overcome any challenge, even the greatest storm. But just when everything seemed to settle, a greater challenge awaited them, and this time, it wasn't just a battle with the outside world, but a confrontation with their deepest fears within. The farm staff watched from the sidelines, their skepticism written on their faces. Though Blaze had shown small signs of change, standing still, approaching Eliot without fear, the doubts among the workers never ceased. To many, Blaze would always be the wild, unpredictable creature he had always been. Their whispers reached Eliot's ears. He's only a wild horse. He'll never truly change. It's just a matter of time before he reverts to his old ways. Each word stung like an open wound. Eliot had already been rejected countless times in his life, by his peers, by society, by a world that didn't understand him. But now, the very bond he had fought for, the connection he had nurtured between himself and Blaze, was being questioned. The doubt of others, though painful, was a reflection of the same doubts Eliot had carried inside himself for so long. Could he really do this? Could he, a boy with so many flaws, lead Blaze to a place of peace and trust? Eliot had always struggled with feelings of inadequacy. People had always told him he was too different, too quiet, too incapable. But with Blaze, things were different. Despite the doubts, the boy had found something in Blaze that reflected his own deepest yearning, a desire for connection. And though others didn't see it, though they questioned it, Eliot felt the change in Blaze. He knew the transformation was real. The more they doubted, the more determined Eliot became. He had learned something essential over the past few months. This wasn't about impressing others. This was about proving to himself that he was capable, that he could create something beautiful with patience and love. The journey with Blaze had never been about conquering the horse, it had been about overcoming the limits within himself. And now, he was about to face the ultimate test. The voices of doubt threatened to crush him, but Eliot stood tall. The words from the staff couldn't shake his belief. This was his journey, and Blaze's journey too. And they would not be defined by the opinions of others. The day had come. The culmination of everything they had worked toward. Eliot was going to ride Blaze for the first time. At the start of this journey, Eliot never thought this moment would come. He had been so wrapped up in his own doubts, so overwhelmed by fear, that the idea of riding Blaze seemed impossible. Blaze was a wild animal, a creature that had never trusted anyone, and Eliot, though he had forged an unspoken bond with him, was still unsure whether that bond was strong enough to carry them through such a trial. But now, as he stood beside Blaze, the decision had already been made. The moment had arrived. There was a strange sense of calm between them as Eliot approached Blaze, the horse standing still as if awaiting his next move. The bond between them, once fragile, was now stronger than ever. This was no longer just about a boy trying to control a horse. It was about two souls working in harmony, ready to face the unknown together. Eliot's heart pounded in his chest as he reached for the stirrup, the weight of the moment settling in. He had spent months singing to Blaze, sitting by his side in silence, offering him the one thing no one else had ever given him, trust. And now, he was about to take the next step, a step into the unknown. Eliot swung his leg over Blaze's back, the sensation of the horse beneath him both exhilarating and terrifying. He felt the stirrup beneath his foot, and for the first time, it wasn't just about the physical connection between him and Blaze, it was about everything they had built together. The first few moments were tentative. Blaze shifted slightly beneath him, but didn't shy away. For a moment, Eliot wondered if Blaze would bolt, or if they would find themselves in an uncontrollable struggle. But something had changed. Something within both of them had shifted. As they began to move, it was not the physical motion of the ride that overwhelmed Eliot, it was the sheer power of the connection that had formed between them. Blaze's movements were smooth and controlled, responding to Eliot's gentle guidance. They were no longer two separate beings, they were now an extension of each other. Together, they were a single entity, working as one. Eliot could feel every step Blaze took beneath him, the horse's strength and grace like nothing he had ever experienced. He had been afraid of this moment for so long, afraid that he wouldn't be able to handle the responsibility, afraid that the bond between them wasn't strong enough. But now, as they rode together, Eliot realized something profound. He was ready. For the first time in his life, he was no longer a boy defined by his doubts and fears. He was someone who could face whatever came next, and he wasn't alone. Blaze, too, had come a long way. The horse, once wild and untamable, now walked with a sense of purpose, its movements smooth and confident. This was not the same animal that had once been a prisoner to fear. This was a horse who had learned to trust, to accept that there was more to life than freedom without connection. Together, they crossed the threshold. The ride was a triumph, not because it was flawless, but because it symbolized something far greater. It wasn't just about riding a horse, it was about riding the waves of fear, the uncertainty, and the doubts that had defined both their lives. And now, they were together, facing it all with the quiet strength of a bond that had been earned, not forced. The riding scene was the moment when everything came together, the culmination of everything Eliot and Blaze had endured. It wasn't just a victory over the fear of riding a wild horse, it was a victory over everything they had feared in life. This wasn't just about mastering Blaze, it was about mastering themselves. Blaze had taught Eliot to trust again, but in return, Eliot had taught Blaze to trust not just him, but themselves. The act of riding wasn't just an external journey, it was a deep, transformative experience for both of them. The storm of doubt, the skepticism from others, and the inner turmoil they both faced were nothing compared to the quiet power of what they had achieved together. Eliot didn't need to prove anything to anyone else. The bond between him and Blaze was unbreakable because it wasn't built on force, it was built on patience, understanding, and above all, trust. As the sun set on that unforgettable day, with Blaze walking beneath him and Eliot still feeling the rush of their shared triumph, one thing was clear: this was just the beginning. They had faced their greatest challenge, and they had emerged stronger than ever, united in a way that no one could ever take away. They were no longer just a boy and a horse, they were partners, bound together by a connection deeper than either could have ever imagined. And nothing, not even the doubts of others, could break that bond. Although it seemed like they had overcome all challenges, one final test awaits, and this time, things will not be as simple as they thought. Blaze was no longer the untamable wild stallion who had first stepped onto the farm. Gone were the eyes full of defiance, the body poised for flight at the slightest sign of danger, the posture of an animal who had known nothing but survival. In his place stood a horse whose eyes reflected trust, calm, and perhaps for the first time, a sense of belonging. The same wild creature who had been an outsider to both humans and himself now stood beside Eliot, a loyal companion. Blaze's transformation was neither sudden nor easy. It was a slow, steady evolution that required time, patience, and a deep understanding, qualities that had been absent in his world before Eliot. Blaze had been broken, both physically and emotionally, by a world that sought to tame him, to force him into submission. Yet through the quiet consistency of Eliot's care, something profound had shifted. The horse had not been coerced into compliance, he had chosen to trust. And that trust had been earned, not through control, but through mutual respect. This transformation was remarkable. It stood as a testament to the power of love and the quiet strength of patience. In a world where quick results are often praised, where immediate gratification is expected, Blaze's slow, steady transformation demonstrated that true change takes time. It doesn't happen in an instant or through force, it happens through enduring compassion. The farm staff, who had doubted Blaze's potential for change, now found themselves witnessing a miracle. They had seen Blaze at his worst, and yet they were now seeing him as a creature capable of love, not only towards humans, but also toward himself. This was not the horse they had first met, but in a way, it was. Blaze had not only learned to trust Eliot, but he had learned to trust in his own worth, something that had been stripped away long ago. In many ways, Blaze's transformation mirrored that of Eliot. Just as Blaze had found a new sense of trust, Eliot had learned to trust himself. Together, they had embarked on a journey of healing, and that healing was not just physical. It had been an emotional and spiritual awakening. Eliot's journey, much like Blaze's, was a testament to what happens when we stop running from our fears and instead choose to face them with patience and trust. Their bond was not just the victory of boy over beast, it was the victory of a relationship built on empathy. Eliot and Blaze had faced fears, real and internal, fueled by the ghosts of their pasts. But in overcoming those fears, they had learned some of life's most important lessons: the importance of patience, the value of trust, and the unyielding strength that love can bring into even the darkest places. The journey had not been easy. It had been messy, emotional, and filled with setbacks. But in every moment of struggle, there was growth. Eliot learned that trust is not a commodity that can be bought or demanded. It is something that must be given freely and earned, just as it had been earned from Blaze. Patience had been his ally, a silent companion on his journey. It was this patience that allowed him to move past his own doubts, his fears of rejection, and his history of isolation. Through Blaze, Eliot had discovered the quiet strength that comes with accepting yourself, just as you accept others. The lessons they had learned went beyond just the relationship between boy and horse. The story of Eliot and Blaze serves as a metaphor for every relationship. It speaks to the importance of understanding, the power of empathy, and the beauty of building something meaningful, not through control, but through mutual respect. They had each given something of themselves. Blaze had given trust, and Eliot had given patience. And in return, both had received a freedom that neither could have imagined at the start of their journey. It is easy to believe that relationships, whether between humans or animals, are founded on what we can do for each other. We often look for what we can gain, and in doing so, we forget the power of simply being there. Just being present in the moment, without expectation, is the foundation of real connection. Eliot didn't demand change from Blaze. Instead, he quietly created a space where change could happen naturally, at its own pace, on its own terms. This was the secret to their success, and it was the secret to every deep relationship, whether between people or animals. As Eliot and Blaze stood together in the quiet of the farm, they were no longer just two separate beings. They were united in trust, understanding, and love. They had shown the world, and each other, that nothing in this world was more powerful than the bond created by mutual respect and love. The conclusion of their journey marked the beginning of a new chapter. They had not only faced the obstacles of their external world, but also the inner battles that had haunted them for so long. Eliot's story, once defined by self-doubt and insecurity, now stood as a story of transformation, of overcoming fears both real and imagined. Blaze's journey, which had begun with pain and resistance, now stood as a testament to the healing power of trust and connection. In the final moments, Both Eliot and Blaze had learned that the key to achieving the impossible wasn't in forcing the world to change, but in changing themselves first. Eliot's journey had never been about impressing others or conforming to society's expectations. It had always been about believing in himself and the possibility that he could be more, and that the relationship he had with Blaze was real and worth fighting for. Similarly, Blaze's transformation was not about yielding to control. It was about choosing to trust again, not only in Eliot but in the world around him. Blaze had once been trapped by his own fears, but through his connection with Eliot, he had learned that true freedom was found not in resisting the world but in embracing it with trust. Their relationship was more than a victory of boy over beast. It was a victory of self-belief, of patience, and of understanding. They had learned to trust themselves and each other. And with that trust, they were able to achieve something no one else had thought possible. They had learned to love themselves fully and completely, and in doing so, they had changed the world around them. Their bond was proof that true change comes not from force or control, but from a quiet strength that is built on patience, understanding, and love. As the sun began to set over the farm, with Blaze walking beneath him and Eliot feeling the weight of their shared triumph, one thing was clear: this was just the beginning. The world around them was still filled with uncertainty, but they had learned that with trust, patience, and love, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The bond between them had been forged not through external victories, but through the quiet power of mutual respect and shared experience. They were no longer just a boy and a horse. They were partners, united by a connection that was deeper than either of them could have imagined. Eliot and Blaze's story is a reminder of the quiet power of patience, the transformative nature of trust, and the way in which love can change everything. It's a story that teaches us that sometimes, to change the world around us, we don't need to force things into place. We need to trust in the process, trust in ourselves, and trust in each other. By embracing these principles, Eliot and Blaze had discovered the most important lesson of all: true change begins from within. And when we believe in the strength of our relationships, we can overcome anything. Overcoming the greatest challenge, but does their journey truly end here? What they have gone through will change everything, in ways you could never imagine. The journey of Eliot and Blaze is not a stopping point, but the opening of a new chapter. Together, they have overcome challenges, built a deep connection, and discovered important lessons about patience, trust, and love. But has this path truly come to an end? Their story serves as a reminder that, sometimes, connection is not the destination, but the journey itself. Every step taken together, every challenge overcome, every moment of understanding and loving one another opens new doors, presents new challenges, and imparts valuable lessons. What storms will Eliot and Blaze face next? Can this friendship continue to grow and change their lives once more? That will only be revealed as they continue down their path. And along the way, you may find a part of yourself in the stories that follow, stories of unbreakable bonds between humans and animals, challenges we never could have expected. This story is not over, it is part of a larger journey, a journey in which you, too, may become a part.